Hi everybody, it's Lisa. Thanks for joining me today and welcome to my sewing lair. I have been involved in a meditative process which involves processing my scraps. I am not a scrappy quilter and I am not going to give you an exhaustive array of ideas on how to process your scraps. Rather, I'm going to focus on two blocks that will allow me, two blocks and one method that will allow me to evaluate how to cut any piece of scrap that I have to allow me to make this block, which is a 6-inch finished kaleidoscope block, and this block, which is a 3-inch finished paper pieced economy block. And you can see immediately how effective this can be in using some of your smaller scraps. So let me show you the tools that I use for this. My MVP tool is the Creative Grids folded corner clipper. You also want a measuring tool for what I'm using. I'm just going to use my Quilt Cut spinabout ruler. And because I'm making kaleidoscope blocks, I am going to use my Marty Michelle Kaleido ruler. And finally, you need a paper piecing template. And I'll put in the show notes, Generations Quilt has a paper piecing template, and I'll actually upload mine, which has on it the sizes that you need to make the cuts that you're going to do. So let's look at our blocks again. We have our template here. And we've got a block. So when I'm evaluating my scraps, I know that I need a 2 1/4 inch strip to make this outer. I need 1.75 to make this inner, and I need 2 1/4, not 2 1/8, but to, basically to make this interior. So these are the three numbers that I need for that. For my kaleidoscope block, I know that I need a 3 1/2 inch strip to make my triangle, and I need a 2 1/2 inch with seam allowance corner setting triangle. And I need them in different colors. I need them in lights. I need them in darks, because it's how all of these interplay together that gives you the beautiful undulation. So that's it. That's all the decisions that I have to make, which makes things a lot easier. The other thing that I do is I save and wash my Cryovac trays, because they make really great trays to put blocks in. So you can see I've got a 3 1/2 inch triangle here for my Kaleido. Here is where I've got for my economy blocks 2 1/4 HSTs, and these have the seam allowance already on there. And this is my 2 1/2 inch Cryovac for the kaleidoscope blocks. So you can see that the choices are very limited, which is good. The fewer choices you have to make, it means the less you have to think. Okay, so those are the two blocks, and now let me show you the one method. When you're cutting a half square triangle, you need to have a strip width for what you need to cut. And in my particular case, I need a 1.75, I need a 2 1/4, and I need a 2 1/2. Those are the only two that I'm working with. So let's just do we have our strip. And then we're going to cut it into a rectangle before we cut our HST. So we have 1.75, 2.25, 2.5. And then for my triangle, I need a 3.5-inch strip. So these are the only things that I need to worry about. For my rectangle, I need to add 6/8 or 0.75. And why is that? It's because I want to cut a rectangle, so when I lay my ruler down, I am making one cut that has 3/8 inch, because this is the diagonal of this 1/4 inch. It's not a 1/4 inch, it's the diagonal, which, is the 1.44 thing. So I need that 3/8 here, and I need at least 3/8 here. And when I cut a triangle, you can see the efficiency of doing it this way. You don't have to turn your ruler. And I don't see anybody employing this technique, probably because they are normal-minded. But I'm lazy, and I don't like to do extra work. So here's my 2 1/4, and I'm going to use this for the outer edge of my block. And when I cut it, I've got 2 blocks. I've got 4. You see how easy that was? All of a sudden, I've got 4, and I did not turn my ruler not one time, because I have my bin. I just put it in there. No thinking about where it goes. These are small trays. Everything fits nicely. All right, so let's go back to our metrics here. So this is all we need to worry about. So everything that we evaluate, we're evaluating based on the most efficient way to use it based on the size that we have. Now, obviously, anything that I have that's 3.5 inches, I'm going to use as a cut for my Kaleidoscope block. So that takes, all of the fuss and decision making about it. Don't need it. It's 3.5 inches. Boom. That's what it is. Now let's finish our table, because this is how we can make other evaluations. This is going to become 2.5. This is going to become 3.0, and this is going to become 3.25. And then, that's just our triangle. So this matrix of what we're looking at is going to allow us, for small pieces, to make smart decisions about what we want to do with our piece. So let's see how this works. All right, let's see how this works with our real life decision making. Here I've got a strip. I don't know what it is yet. I'm putting okay, so this is a 2-inch strip, and it doesn't match any of these, obviously. So what does that mean? It means that I have to make a decision and trim it down so that I can use this 1.75. So I'm going to trim this down to 1.75 inches. So I'm trimming off just a very little bit here, and that's just wastage. You can't do anything with that unless you're, spray it with adhesive and put it in a tangle. So with our 1.75, we're going to cut this at 2.5 inches. Now I happen to have my little Stripology mini square, so I'm just going to go pull this out. And I'm going to use this to cut at 2.5 inches quickly. So it's 1.75 this way. I need 2.5 rectangles. So let's just get a clean cut. This is why I love this ruler. And I can simply stack all of these up. And set my ruler. Again, you see this is 2.75, 1.75. I've got plenty of room here. I've got my room there. And there we have it. We've got we got 12 half square triangles at 1.75. And again, having your bin handy to put your squares, your triangles in helps quite a bit. So that's that. All right, here I have some random things. This is 2.5, and I would need 3.25. I'm pretty sure that's not 3.25, but it's 3. And the only thing that I can do with that is cut 2.25. And that will give me my 2.25, and those go in the 2.25 bin. We've got the same thing here. And in this particular instance, the one that I just had, I had not trimmed to 2.25. Just pull this off. And again, it's just very little waste. And that goes in the bin. All right, I'm just going to pull something else out. All right, so here's some remnants of fat quarters that I had, and these are actually fairly large. And you know what I'm going to do with these? These are going to be perfect for creating the triangles for the Kaleidoscope block. So this is actually 4.75. So these are actually pretty large. Alrighty, let's take a look and see what we have here. This is 4.25. So I'm going to go ahead and trim these down to each to 3.5. Get that trimmed up. Now, after I've trimmed these, I have these little pieces here. I could probably do something with that. It is really quite small, but it would be nice in a just as a little flangey thing, and I can do something with this. This is basically about 1 inch, and I can do something with 1 inch. If you take something that's 1 inch wide and you fold it in half and then sew it, you create a 1/4 inch flange. So you can do something really nice with those in your quilts when you want to outline a block. All right, so here we have our and I try to cut through as many as I can. Again, I've got a really sharp blade in my get over here so I don't have. Now, I highly recommend that you use a helper ruler when you are cutting. You can turn the block, or if you can cut with this, get more in front of it so that it's facing you. So whatever makes sense. Whatever makes sense for you. Personally, I prefer to use I use a helper ruler, which is typically my corner clipper ruler for this size block. And I actually have more than one of these rulers, so you can, use one of those too as a helper ruler. Here's my Alaska ruler, which can, it's shaped the same way. It's got a blunt tip, and you can see that if you're using two rulers, and that is, that certainly is an embarrassment of riches to have more than one ruler, but it can save you quite a bit of time on these. And I think I can get one. Can I get? Nope, cannot. So now we got to open this up. And let's go ahead and line this up. And I would just simply probably put this in the scrap bin, or let's measure and see what we've got. So we know that this is going to be, this is 2.5 inches. So frankly, what we can do is use that to our benefit. We can put our ruler here, and we can create two and a half square triangle, and put that with our 2.5 inches. So you get the gist of how this can, makes it really easy and efficient because of the method using. So I hope that you'll try this method, and look for in the show notes for the PDFs for making the economy block, and and I'll put the measurement, all of these measurements in together, and you can quickly amass blocks that you can put together and make something really quite special. Thanks for joining me today, and as always, I hope that you're working on something that brings you joy. Bye-bye. Oh, don't go away yet. So for any of you wondering how you can just sew these together, what I'm going to show you is just place two of these together. Take it to your sewing machine and sew a scant 1/4 inch. I'll be right back. Okay, so here's our block. It's going to be 2.5 inches, and we want to line up a diagonal, so use your best ruler for that to help you. That particular ruler doesn't have the best diagonal. This one is, you can see pretty easily. We need to be at 2.5 inches. And this is, is basically exactly the same size, with just a little bit of truing up here for just little pieces of this and that, including the tail. So if you don't want to use your fabrics in the Kaleidoscope block, you can make a ton of these just by matching the two together. So hopefully you can see how easy that would be. And while it might look like a lot of cutting, you could see the precision and production methods that we use to create these. Now, using this ruler, you can sew strips together and create half square triangles using the same method that I showed you. Just put right sides facing and do your cutting and then go to your machine. I think it's best to use a scant 1/4 inch so that you have just a little bit of room, because as we know, for half square triangles, for them to work perfectly, they've got to be perfect in the corners, as these are. All right, now I'm going to let you go.